Hi, welcome to Coffee and Astronomy. My name is Jim Craig, and today I'm going to talk about one of the number one questions I got asked in my years teaching astronomy in a planetarium, which I did for more than 2 decades. And now, in this day and age, I see it in astronomy forums on various social media sites, and that's the question somebody asks. Well, I have a curious child. They usually fill in the age, and I want to buy them a telescope. And now I don't want to spend a lot of money in case they're not interested. And I would stop you right there. I'd actually probably stop you with the first sentence. And that's because telescopes are tools, not toys. And I know we all like to think that our children are exceptional. They're brilliant and will someday, be holding the Nobel Prize and thanking mom and dad. And that's a great notion. But after working with tens of thousands of children over the year, I've discovered that the reason some kids are called exceptional is because they are the exception. More likely, your child is a typical kid. Intensely curious, and I do want to encourage that. Curiosity is the beginning of knowledge. They're inexperienced. They are uninformed. As our job as parents is to fill in those last two things as much as we can. And that is get them some experience and inform them. So when it comes to telescopes, I want you to be honest about your children. I know, again, you probably think your children are exceptional, but I want you to think back of every instance where your child at some point or another has done something you specifically said, don't do it. Really? If you don't think it's been done, you need to pay better attention to your kids because your kids have done it. Every child does it. It's just part of being a child. And that is testing your boundaries, exploring where, maybe you shouldn't go. And again, one of our jobs as parents is to make sure that that's safe. But you should know more by your child, a professional telescope or any kind of telescope, than you would buy a child a working chainsaw. Because no matter how big the warning label, no matter how many times you admonish them, you're going to get that one child, and it might be your child, who's going to think, I'll just take a peek at the sun. Now, the part of a telescope that gathers the light, the objective, is pretty much like a big magnifying glass or a big magnifying mirror. And you've all seen what a magnifying glass can do to a piece of paper on a hot, sunny day. Well, instead of a piece of paper, imagine that's your child's eye. Yeah, you don't want to think about that because it's a frightening thought. I will simply say this. It's a mistake they won't make more than twice. So how do you encourage that curious child? And that comes down to the next part. And that is, you don't want to spend a lot of money in case they lose interest. I'll tell you right now, unless you spend a fair amount of money, they will lose interest. Because the cheap telescopes are cheap for a reason. They are cheap to make. They are cheaply made. One of the bits of advice that I've given is never buy your telescope in the same place you buy tires, toys, and towels. They all start with the letter T, and that's where the similarity ends. And if you don't believe me, take that telescope up to the customer service desk at one of the big, mega markets that you go to and ask for help assembling it. And you're going to get a deer in the headlights look from that poor soul because they don't know anything about them. Don't buy telescopes from people who don't know anything about them. Now, that is going to limit your choices. But you do want to spend some money. You want to get something of quality. It's the same thing with when you buy a car. You want to get something of quality. If you get something cheap, it's not going to last. It's not going to do well. The cheaper telescopes have parts made of plastic. They have inferior optics. They have wobbly mounts. And pretty soon, that telescope is going to wind up in a closet gathering dust. And I'm going to ask you to be honest with yourselves here. When you buy something for yourself, you buy the better one, don't you? Oh, really? Where's the big TV? Where you watch TV or in the kids' room? If it's in the kids' room, your kids might be a little spoiled. But seriously, Buy something decent and buy it for yourself and share it with your children. Now, I got my first decent telescope when my elder son, was 4 years old. And it happened to be this summer that Shoemaker Levy 9, the comet, hit Jupiter. Now, he was only 4, but he looked through the eyepiece, and he'd seen Jupiter before through another cheaper telescope. But he asked, why is there a hole? And I was able to explain it to him. And my kids grew up with Dad guiding them at the telescope, taking them out, showing them. We've looked at comets. We've set out for meteor showers. My kids have seen the moons of other planets eclipse one another. We've seen the moons of Jupiter eclipse one another. They've seen galaxies, nebulae, all sorts of things. And it's been a great experience. And if you were to ask my son, who's 30 years old now, he would say that some of his fondest memories are going out and seeing these things. And he still gets excited by the astrophotography, the pictures I take today. And I would not trade those experiences for anything. Now, in those days, it was 1994 when I actually built that telescope. And I put $300 in it. And as a recent college graduate, $300 was a lot of money. But now, all these years later, I realize it was an investment. It was an investment for me. It was an investment in my children. So do be prepared to spend a little money. Don't go on the cheap here. At some point in the near future, probably for the next Coffee and Astronomy, I'm going to talk about buying your first telescope. Things to look for, things to look out for. So I hope you'll join us for that. If you want to see these videos keep coming, I'm going to ask you to make to head on over to my Patreon page at patreon.com/planetofmystery. That's planet_of_mystery. And consider becoming a patron. For as little as $1 a month, you can help keep these videos coming. I also have exclusive content for my members, and occasionally I have a prize giveaway, so keep your eyes open for that. But that's for members only on my Patreon page. But more important than having a telescope for your children is just getting out there, learning the sky, sharing the sky, and spending time together. And that's really what we all want to do for our kids. So until next time, this is Jim Craig with Coffee and Astronomy, and I hope to see you again sometime really soon.